Hello, I'm Michael Redmond, and I will be commentating for the Mind Sports World Championship for Pair Go. So I'm going to start with the pair from Taipei. That's Joanne Missingham, and she's also known by her Chinese name, Hei Jia. And her pair is Mr. Dean, who is one of the younger top professionals in Taipei. And at this point, I'm waiting for some visual information of the game, because I'm not quite sure which pair is white and black. Their opponents are Naiwai from China and Chen Yaoye, her partner. So Naiwai is fairly well known to Westerners. She's one of the top female players, and she's been a top female player for a long time. So she's a very formidable player, and is showing that by being chosen for this tournament when there are also a lot of strong younger players in China. And her partner, Chen Yaoye, is one of the top players in China. He's also maybe one of the older male players in this tournament. And he's been on the top of the Chinese Go scene for a while. And he's still holding strong there. So he's maybe one of the older players in the Chinese scene who is still very strong. これ点の情報来ないんですけど。今から。Okay, on the screen I think we are seeing the game as it is being playing. That's Naiwai and Chen Yaoye on the right. And let's see, looks like they played star point and a 3-4 point. And the Missingham pair is white, so I'll change this around. And so black has played 2 star points, and white has played a 3-4 point and 3-3. So this sort of represents what's happening recently with a lot of computer programs being very strong. Black's 2 star points has become a very popular opening. And also there are some computer programs that like to play the 3-3 point. So this is sort of representative of moves that have been played by computer programs and that have become popular in professional play. And the same with this knight's move that white plays. From black's point of view, pressing here is a move that the programs will give a high score to. So this move is preferred by a lot of the computer programs. And it's considered, now it's beginning to be considered good for black to be able to play this exchange. So white plays here to prevent that. And this move has actually become about as popular as the pincer here or here, which used to be the most popular move. And black plays a shimari from the star point. And white invades the 3-3 point. So we're seeing a very modern game here. It's quite common now to play the early invasion to the 3-3 point, which actually before AlphaGo it was considered to be bad, but nowadays it's okay. And black covers. And again, if you're using traditional joseki shapes, then you would expect black to be playing on the side that black wants to build. But actually, there are some joseki variations that we'll probably be seeing in this game, in which black can actually build a wall on this side and build on the moyo on the right side, probably. So it's white's turn here. And I would expect white, probably the most common move here is to play against black here. Oh yes, this is what happened. So white plays a hane. And this is a turning point in this joseki where black can choose to extend, which would work well if black was trying to build on the lower. Oh, that is what black did. So this is a very simple version of the joseki. Other moves that black could have played would be the hane here, combined maybe with a double hane or a cut on the second line. These are all, we'll probably be seeing more of this in this tournament, so I'll leave it at this point. And in the game, black just extended. So this game, we can see it's progressing fairly quickly. The players have 30 seconds for each move, so they have to play quickly. But they do have some extra time, 10 sets of 1 minute. So they have a total of 10 minutes of extra time that they can use when they want to think. And it's divided into 10 parts of 1 minute each. This extension here that black has played on the upper side is a key point in attacking white's shape in the upper left corner. And if black tries to continue the attack, well, for instance, if white had played elsewhere, just a random move here, then the key point becomes here, and white has to pull back. And black can take away the corner from white, creating a floating white group that is not 100% alive, or at least it would be painful for white to try to make eyes now. So locally, white can prevent that by kicking here once, and for instance, kicking again, and then jumping out would be one way to continue. Black would probably play something on the left side there. But instead of doing that, white chose to play a pincer. So this pincer is sort of daring black to try this move, which in this case white would not pull back, but it would start a big fight here in the corner. So if black is not going to do that, other move that might be possible would be to play an attachment here. And for instance, if black just simply goes down, this is better for white than the shape that I was showing earlier, where black gets this exchange in. So white is indicating that white is going to be satisfied by playing this way. So black played away. And so this is a common variation of the Sansan Joseki. Black extended here. Black could have jumped, which would have white wedging here probably, or otherwise playing the attachment on this side. So when black extends here, it's normal for white to slide on the second line. And black covered. So now white has a choice of playing something, an extension on the left side, or also a good point would be jumping up to the fourth line with this knight's move, which would give white a nice position here. So white played this close. So white is trying to attack these black stones. And since white had two choices here, you could say these are interchangeable points. So when white plays the one might expect black to play somewhere in this direction, somewhere that prevents white from playing the other important point, which was this one. And that did happen. And so now, if black continues here, for instance, with a move like this, the corner is not going to die, but it will be squeezed a little bit. So one way that white could play, which would be slightly defensive, would be to play here or here to create a kind of a connection on the side. This would be a standard sequence here, which could happen. It would be a simple way for both sides to play. And then black would have reasonable strength here to probably allow black to invade on the left side. Otherwise, if white wants to play more actively, this is a point, and I see a kind of a pause in the game here, which indicates that white has taken an extra thinking time to think about this position, because it's also a position where playing underneath here seems a reasonable way to play, making a connection to this stone, which could become isolated with black's wall here, waiting to attack. But also, it's reasonable for white to have ideas of attacking from the center. For instance, something like this or something in this vicinity could be a more active way for white to play. White played here. So white is playing more actively here. And black has to be careful of the connection here. For instance, if black plays something like this, there is some potential for white to cut this off. Like, for instance, white could play here and bump against black here, and then cut here. And although white has a very dangerous shape on the side, for the time being it's holding together. And so when black pulls back, white could just answer on the second line here and would have a good connection. So in this position, white would have a very strong attack against black on the left side, and also would have some potential to attack these 3 black stones. So it would be a bit difficult for black. Otherwise, answering submissively with something like this would allow white to efficiently surround black. And so then black would be sort of isolated in this area. So black did none of those things and came out here. And of course, the connection of these stones is safe enough. As I said, there is some potential to cut this stone off, but since it's just the one stone, when black plays here, black is indicating that if white is really going to go after that stone. For instance, we could imagine something like this. In this case, black would be able to continue for a while on this side and have the potential to throw away just 2 stones. So it would be a slightly different story from the fight that I was showing earlier. So white crawls once. So in this fight here, white is trying to put pressure on the black group, and the object of this mostly is to make a solid territory on the left side here for the time being. And this curling underneath here is a beginning for that. Black just played here. Now white will probably continue something in the center, an extension, or jumping would also be a possibility. And a simple move to play would be this one. So this would be an example of white making some solid territory in an area where, like if white was just playing elsewhere, black would eventually have the potential to invade here. So by starting this attack on black, one of white's objects in attacking is to secure that left side, in the case that white simply pulls back. Now when white plays strongly here, white did not do that, but if white plays strongly here, it becomes a much more complicated position where it becomes difficult for black to get out, but white is also in trouble on the side there. So for instance, if we had white play here and black play here, this would become a very tactically complicated position in which black is looking at a ladder with the cut here and also key points here. But white is trying to hold the position safely and at the same time keep this group on the side safe. So both sides would be put under pressure here. It looks like black has a potential eye on the side here and an eye here. So both sides would be able to live. It would be a much more complicated and dangerous fight for both sides. But instead of that, white just pulled back. In general, with pair go, since you do have to remember that your partner has to choose the next move, it's fairly common to try to keep things relatively simple sometimes. Especially when things are going according to plan. You don't try to be too greedy, because sometimes your partner will not understand what's going on or what you're trying to do. So black has just played this hane here. White has to make the choice of whether to play a double hane at this point, or just to extend, because the shape sort of indicates white sort of wants to play a double hana here, or even a cut, but there is a lot of danger on the left side when black cuts here. Oh, sorry, and white extends, black goes down on the side. This is going to be a fight to capture, and it's not really clear who's going to win this fight. I think maybe white could win, but it's very close. At this point, there's a lot of danger with, for black to extend liberties with this kind of move. So we could have white play this move, and black would be able to play here. So it's not that simple for white to win this semi. So white just extended, and this means black will have a relatively good shape when black plays the hanging connection here. So at this point, white's attack on the black group in itself is not, oh, black didn't even do that. Black played this side. So black is going to have little trouble settling this group. Black is going to be able to settle the group. But for the time being, white is gaining a lot on the left side. If white at some point plays an extra move in the upper left corner here, then this whole side looks like it could easily become white's territory. So there's a lot of potential profit for white on the left side. And with this move, black is cutting off these two stones. So the idea here is to capture these two stones to create a solidly living group while attacking white on the lower side. And so if white were to play something like this, and something like this, and then like this, obviously white would have no trouble making a life, but black would be able to be building some territory here from what was originally a weak group. So this is the object that black has. Instead of, so actually since white has profited on the left side, I would suggest that sacrificing these two stones would be a normal way to play for white, because taking profit on the left and then trying to win the fight in the center is usually a fairly dangerous thing to attempt. But white has played the strongest move here, and so white cuts black off. It looks like this is going to become a very exciting fight here. White does have, well, if we have black cut here, white will probably connect underneath. White does have a strong threat of the cut in the center. Oh, so that's where black actually played this hanging connection. So black is sort of backed off away from the fight. So white does have the option of connecting here or connecting here. These would be two ways to add a stone. Otherwise, white could play here white played another move altogether. This one. Now this does not completely take away the threat of a cut. But when black cuts, white does have the option of squeezing with this move. So if black, the only way for black to survive here, well, there's actually more than one. But for instance, if black plays here, this is one thing that could happen. And white would be squeezing black. This is actually looking like it would be an even fight. Black, it doesn't look like white has any good co-threats, so maybe black would play the Atari here. So this could be one way to fight. Otherwise, white could just sacrifice the three stones. And this comes with a lot of forcing moves for white on this side. So white can just play all the forcing moves and actually be able to put some pressure, for instance, by playing somewhere around here, put some pressure on the black wall here. So this locally, losing the three stones here, white would be getting enough compensation on the outside. So there is one other way for black to try to escape here. which would be to push through here and push through here. Maybe push through here first and then push through here. But this again is going to be a bit clumsy. Black has to play all of the forcing moves to be able to squeeze out. And can capture the 3 white stones. After which white will probably add a stone to the center. So again, this is a case where white has squeezed black a little bit and gotten some compensation for the cut. So I would conclude that it's probably not so attractive for black to cut here immediately. And so black played from the center. So that seems to make sense. So if black cuts here next, then white will not have any of those squeezes and probably will just have to throw away the 3 stones. So this is a more lighter way to strengthen the black group here and threaten white, threaten the cut here. On this side, you could say that black has potential to cut white off on the side. But when white extends here, this becomes a double threat because of the black really needs another move here. And black is not connected in this area. For instance, it depends on the overall position, but white has two ways to push through. White could push through this side and cut the 3 black stones on the left off. Or if white feels that these 3 stones are strong enough, then white can push through here and cut black off in this direction, cut off the whole black group. So there's a weakness in black's connection when black tries to break through the side here. If white can connect on the side, that makes this a very strong, a living group. So this is a point where white could continue in the center, or could go for the upper left corner with a move like this, which would be a very important territorial move. Black continued. Let's see. White played a shoulder hit here. So this is another move that has become popular in modern years after AlphaGo played it very successfully against a number of top professionals. And with this stone, I guess black felt that the black group was reinforced enough for black to try this attack. So black attached here. And to make this attachment work, black has to continue with this move. And again, to go back to this variation here, when white plays this way, then there's the question of a potential fight to capture, potential semi between this black group, which does have a lot of open liberties, and this white group, which for the time being looks like it could be surrounded in the center. Black also has a very bad shape there, but of course white on this side, white is already in a lot of trouble. And so it could turn into some kind of a trade. There's also the issue of white's corner group, which is not alive when black plays this move. So that would be a reason for white not to push through on this side, but as the game shows, white push through on this side, which is a safer way to go about this, because if black covers and white cuts, then it's just these 4 stones that white has to compete with if it becomes a race to capture. For instance, if black cuts, already black stones are very limited in liberty. So like if we assume this shape, black only has 2 liberties left, and white's winning by a great deal. And so black connects here. And so when this happens, white can just push through on the left. And the cut here against these 3 white stones, although it's a big move, it's not an issue as far as the fight to capture these 3 stones is concerned. So although I did say that the white group in the corner is not 100% alive, it doesn't matter when the black group is so close to being captured. So for instance, if although black can kill the white corner, for instance, with something like this, usually would work. But there's a number of ways for white to refute that when black has such a limited number of liberties. So that means that white has captured these 3 black stones on the left side, but white does have a very weak group on the lower side here. Because of this connection that black has made, white's eye space underneath is relatively limited. So for instance, if black plays something like this, it will be very difficult for white to make eye space locally, and white will be fighting to get out into the center. So black played here and white cut. So I think I'd like to take a break from this game for a moment. At this point, it looks like white has taken a lead in territory. White has almost 40 points here on the left side. And then potentially will be getting 20 or more points more when white captures the upper left corner. Of course, from black's point of view, black can play an attachment here and a double hane or an extension here, maybe the hane here. Something like this would create a living black group in most cases. So it depends on which side plays first in the upper left corner. If black plays first, it will be mostly gone, while if white plays first, it will probably be a white territory. But for the time being, the fight here on the lower side is most important. So this is where it becomes very, very complicated. We can see black is pushing from the center, maybe trying to confine white to the lower side. And again, with the open side here, with black, the open side there, with black having an opportunity to jump in at this point later, will make it very difficult for white to make 2 eyes. But players of this level are usually pretty good at finding a way out of stuff like this. So I think I'll leave this game at this point, and we can change to another game. So shall we, why don't we try Ichiriki against the other Taiwanese, the other pair from Taipei. Okay, so the black pair is Ichiriki Ryo, one of the young, strong players in Japan, and his partner is Fujisawa Rina, so she's a very young player also, who is actually starting to take some of the female titles. So she's sort of been both of these players have sort of been child prodigies. And this is the other pair from Taipei, Mr. Wang and Ms. Yang. And so they're both young players. I believe Yang is just a 2-dan, but not to be deceived. Oh no, that was one of the Korean players. But she is one of the younger players, very formidable. And so we're going to see the moves now. Yes? So again, white started with a 3-3 point and a 3-4 point. So this seems to be the popular opening here. And again, we're seeing a lot of these low kakaris against the 3-4 point. And again, this is something that has been an influence of so-called AIs, or the Go-playing computer programs, who seem to attach a higher value to the low kakari than they do to the high kakari. So that's something that people are being influenced by these computer programs and trying out the moves. I think eventually professional players will come to their own conclusions, but for the time being, people are experimenting with these styles that are indicated by the computer programs. And again, white's kicking here and jumping is something that used to be very unusual, but it also is a modern way to play that was suggested by a lot of computer programs. And so white also plays a low kakari. In this position, the lower side in general does not have a very high value. So I'm sort of expecting black to do a pincer at this point. Yes. And white plays the pressing move here. Again, this has become a very popular move. This move has actually been around for at least hundreds of years. It was a very popular joseki also in the Edo era, which was up to about 100 years ago, I guess, the mid-19th century. But it was a long era, a golden era of Go for Japan. It was also a very popular joseki then. So it's not as if it's brand new. But the assessment of this position has changed very recently because computers will say that it's good for white. And white plays this attachment, which is together with the 3-3 points. This is actually, I think it's mostly some of the new Chinese AIs that like to play this move. It was played a bit by AlphaGo, I think, too, in some of its practice games against itself. And that was AlphaGo 0 when it was teaching itself to play Go. Again, it's very unusual originally, but this is a move that white will play when it considers the 3-3 point and decides that covering here is a good move for black. Sometimes the computer will choose to play one line closer to the lower side and say that if black plays in this direction, then we get back to a 3-3 point joseki, in which case white is pointed in the right direction. So that's the general idea behind this attachment. And it is being picked up by some top professional Go players. In this case, we can see that the direction of play seems to be good for white when this extension here becomes a pincer against the black stone on the side. So black pushes here. This is a key point. And white, usually white would pull back or play a hane, but instead white pushed here once. And capped here. So white's idea here is that if black plays here, white will have to sacrifice 2 stones. So if white continues here and black cuts and white plays here, then this would be able to live on the side. But this would not be a good result for white. Black would just play another move on the side. And all of white's attempts to attack black here have failed. And white's life on the side is not a very big territory. So I would not suggest that this is good. But white could, at some point, sacrifice the 2 stones. And it might be better for white to be going after this single black stone. Oh, actually, the game did progress in this fashion. So we'll see. Oh, white actually pulled back to invite black to take the 2 stones. And so now it's the question of, is this actually going to be a white territory? Because it looks like black does still have some room to try something inside. So black did that. And white peeped. And then black played away. So this could be a kind of a pair go thing that's happening here. Because the person who played here probably thought that, I'm not really sure what the rotation is, but the player who played here had an idea of making a life inside here. But maybe the partner didn't really understand completely what was going to happen. So black played once away. Again, white could capture this by adding a stone, for instance, somewhere around here. But the double kakari here on the upper side is very big also. So it's a reasonable, playing away once is reasonable, I think. And then black continued with this. So there's a big question here, is this black group going to live? And white pushes through. This is going to start a forcing sequence where white can ask black which side black wants to protect. Like black can protect from the corner or from the side. When black protects from the side, there is a weakness in the corner, and which makes, at the very least, this is going to be a forcing move. So white is actually aiming at this move here, which would have been a bit more dangerous in the case of not having this exchange. For instance, just to go back a few moves, if we have white trying this immediately, this becomes a very dangerous variation for white, where black is breaking through. White did manage to capture the cutting stone, but white is without eyes also. So both the white group and the black group are without eyes. Actually, this final move might be better played here. But it's going to be a running fight out in the center. With two white, if black can break out here, there's going to be two white groups that are not alive. So this is maybe dangerous for white. So that would explain white's attempt to play some forcing moves here. And next, white is threatening to play here now. And this would just take away black's eye space. And this, since white is connected here, this looks a bit more dangerous for black. So black played here. So this looks like it's with a forcing move here. It looks like black has enough space to be alive. So white takes the two stones. And black extended on the side here. White attempted to play a forcing move. This is threatening to jump in here. And if black answers underneath, then white will have another forcing move here. So white's trying to get some extra forcing moves from the center. Black jumped out. And white jumped in here. So this is developing into an interesting fight, where white is trying very hard to make attacks on black. White has gained something in the corner. Black plays here. But black does have a lot of territory in various places. So I would say black has a territorial lead at this point, and white is trying to get some attacking potential. So white played once here. White still has not managed to kill the black group on the side. So there's a potential life if black at any point plays here. Black can make two eyes. Also, if white does something like this, oh, white did something like that. Now there's still some room for black to try to move out. And it will lead to a running fight. So if black does something like this, and white continues with this move, this would actually be a bit dangerous for white, because black would play here. Actually, black could push through here once. And black would have an advantage in this fight to capture. So if black does push through to escape here, white will use the fact that the white stones in the corner here are very solid. So white could just jump out or play something like this. Allow black to poke through, because white has a lot of strength in the area. It's still a very dangerous fight for white. So instead, black played from the center. So black is going to sacrifice these 5 stones. And white captures that group. And meanwhile, black is getting a great deal of potential on the left side of the board to the center. So white plays here. So that's finished off this black group. And black has played all of the forcing moves here. So now black will probably switch to some other part of the board. Black played here. And white jumped out. Obviously, white has to do something to live in this corner. The corner is not alive yet. But jumping out here, it does create the threat of wedging here. So this is something that white is looking at sort of sideways. Black jumps into the corner. So now white is without eyes. So the idea behind this fight here is that if white had simply answered here, then black would still have the peep here, and it would be squeezed a lot. The white group would be squeezed to a great degree. So white tried to counterattack, and black has played very strongly against that, taking away white's base. White jumps out. This is going to be a big fight in the center of the board now. And black peeped once. White will connect. And now this becomes a real threat. If white can play the wedge here next, then the black group on the side will be in trouble. So black answered here. White connected. Black still has to worry about the tari here. So black played another peep. And this finishes that problem. Black does have to worry about this entire group here, which does not have two eyes yet. And so although black is attacking white for the time being, black does have to be sure of that, that this group does not get too weak. For the time being, black can always make an eye on the side with this move, but does not yet have a second eye. So white curls around. So white's object in this fight is to get out here between the black groups on the left side and black's group here in the center. Because white does have a very solid position in this area, so white would like to be able to press black against that thickness. Black plays here, white jumps out. And I believe we've caught up with the game. And so this is the position here. Let's just take a look at how much territory white has gained. So this position on the left side is something like, if we look at it like this, black has a few points, almost komi. So white has slightly more than 30 points here on the side. Let's make a slightly more accurate calculation. About 32 points. So white has 32 points of territory. We'll call this almost komi. Black has almost 15 points here, and something like 10, more than 10 points at least in this area, with some potential territory in this area. So it's not territory yet, but it looks like it could easily become territory. And so, and white has some territory in the upper left corner. So that's something like 40 points for white against something like 25 points plus komi plus this potential for black. So you can see that white has a very clear advantage in territory, but white does have this weak group in the lower left. So the fighting is going to center on that for the time being. A natural move that black could play, oh, we've got some more moves here. So black played the knight's move here, extended here, and played the knight's move. White jumped out, and black played. So we can see black is trying to make a large-scale attack. With the two moves here, black has made some space here, which is usually going to turn into an eye for black in the center of the board. And as I said, black also has the potential to attach here, threatening to cut white off, to make an eye here underneath. So for the time being, this black group is strong enough, but it's not completely settled. So that could become an issue later in the game. So black plays the shoulder hit here to make a large-scale attack. And yes, white pokes out. Black will continue to try to surround. But in this fight, it is very difficult to see where black is going to make the territory. Because black, usually in a fight like this, you can't really expect to kill the group that you're chasing around the board. But you would like to try to catch up in territory in the process of attacking it. So white slides here. This is an important move because if black covers here during the fight, then the corner will become very cramped. Although it will not die immediately, it will have to live in a very small scale. So this is a very big territorial move. But of course, black will continue to split white in two And we'll be concentrating on the attack here. If white is too greedy, then black could actually try to kill it, because at this point, well, this is not actually on the board, but white does have more than 40 points of territory. So it looks like just these two areas will definitely not be good enough for black. And with all of these white stones here, black is not guaranteed of getting this area. So black does have some catching up to do in territory, and we'll have to fight strongly here, cutting white off with something like this. Yes? So this game, it seems to be hanging in the balance here. It's hard to say who is winning, but it's fairly clear that white does have a lead in territory. So it all depends on how black can attack. Hopefully getting some extra territory on the upper side here, and eventually finishing the territory on the left side would be two objects that black could have in this fight. So for the time being, white has connected here with Sente, but does have to worry about this move here, which could create a cut on this side. So there is some weakness there that white has to find a way to, for instance, something like this would fix that, again with Sente, but it would be a very sloppy kind of shape, and white would have trouble moving out later. So white pushed here once, and black jumps. So we can see the side there developing into a territory. It looks like it's going to be something in the vicinity of about 25 points. So we're catched up. It does look like an exciting game. We could continue with this game a little bit more. White still has to worry about this move. For the time being, the threat of a hane here is more powerful than the threat of black's cut here. So white would just answer that with this move, threatening to capture the black cutting stone, as well as threatening to wedge here and make a living shape on the side. So for the time being, this is a more forcing threat. So black answered here. And for instance, white could continue here and get rid of the immediate threat with this exchange. But this doesn't really finish white's problems, because still black does have the peep here, which would set up this. Maybe in a different order, but there's still this weakness here. So white finally gets rid of it with this exchange, which is a bit painful. It does give black this forcing move, which is going to make it more difficult for white to escape in the center. But it is Sente for the time being, so it gives white a tempo here. So now white must find a shape to escape towards the upper side. White's whole group, let's see, does white have any eyes on the lower side there? It doesn't look like white has an eye in the corner. And so it is an eyeless group that white has to worry about. And on the upper side again, white doesn't really have room to make two eyes. So it's going to be a very close thing to make a living shape. But again, players at the top of the Go world, as all of the players in this tournament are usually pretty good at making life. There is some potential to use this move to make an extra eye on the lower side. For instance, this would make an eye for white in the center, right here. So I guess there's half an eye in this general area. And white could probably build an eye somewhere on the upper side, towards the upper side. And in some cases, white's going to be getting an eye here in this central area. So it all depends on how much white has to give up in the process. Because as the game is right now, black has less than 40 points of territory, and white has more than 40 points. So white does have a slight territorial advantage. I think this is a good point to go on to the next game, I guess. Shall we go to let's go to Korea versus the next two games, actually. Both are Korea versus Japan. So let's go to Park and Choi against Takao and Hsieh. Okay, in this game, Takao and Hsieh are white, so I'll change that. Hsieh is, for a while, she's been the top female Japanese player. And more recently, she has been challenged by Fujisawa Rina a lot and lost one of her titles to Fujisawa Rina. So she's the more senior of the Japanese, the two leading Japanese players, female players. But she still is a very formidable player. And she still has I believe she has 4 of her 5 female titles. So she was the only person who took 5 titles at one time, the only female professional to take 5 titles at the same time. So we have 2 star points against 2 star points. Again, a very modern game. There was a time about 30 years ago when the Sannensei was very popular. Almost 30 years ago, yes. So it's a long time ago. But nowadays, people just start playing these approaches. Quite often, a 3-3 invasion in this position is a very popular move. In this case, black is trying to just pressure white by controlling a large area in the board. So black is trying to control large areas on the right half of the board in this opening. So black again plays a shimari from the start point, and white plays a kakari. Meanwhile, white is playing very stably. We can see that white is going to be taking territory on the left side for the time being, or has potential at least. And again, playing a kakari and then with the hasami, then jumping into the corner. This is something that we've been seeing for a long time. So it's a more orthodox way of playing compared to the modern computer style, the AI style, as some people call it. Crawling here, where the joseki move was usually to connect. Crawling here is the modern way of playing this joseki. The drawback of connecting here is that at some point white can use the covering move here as a forcing move to build some potential to erase black's moyo on the upper side. So this gets rid of that potential. And the cut here is not something to be really worried about. For the time being, black can play strongly by bumping against it. Otherwise, in some cases, black can just play from above. And in some games, black will just sacrifice the 2 stones on the side to get some outside influence. So it depends on the overall position, but for the time being, it's going to be very difficult for white to get anything out of this. When black can usually capture immediately with a geta, or in English we might call it a net. Both of these are ways to capture the 2 white stones. And so black, after white jumped, black continued with this. And again, a very popular joseki nowadays. White wedges. And recently, originally the joseki was to play here, and black will push here. So in this position, black will be mostly controlling the lower side here, and is pushing out towards the center. So this was the original joseki, but now it has become more popular to push once on the 4th line here, to build thickness in the center, and then just to sacrifice the 1 stone there, which is not so important at this point in the game. black protects the upper side. And so we see a game developing into a kind of a territorial, a relatively peaceful game, I believe. Black plays an extension here, and white plays the knight's move. So it's starting peacefully. Black invades the left side, and white goes down here. So the white players are very calmly taking territory, and black is also playing a well-balanced game. So it looks like this is a kind of game that would go on to the end without much danger of groups dying. Like maybe the only group that is potentially going to die is that black stone on the left side, which is, for the time being, it's going to be all right. But depending on how the players continue. So instead of trying to attack here, and the problem with an attacking move on the left side is that the move itself does not gain too much territory. As far as territory is concerned, it's a relatively small move. So it all depends on what white can gain in the future attack. So it does make sense that white has instead played this attachment to reduce black's area on the lower side, or the lower right side area. So this breaks into black's territory, and with white's strength here, white does have a friendly group to aim towards, and the black stone is not so strong. So that's what the fight is, what the players are doing at this point. So white jumps, and white's one step closer to connecting up in the center there. And black takes this point to play the extension here. So black is taking some territory on this side to compensate for white erasing black's territory here. And white jumps. This is also a big move that reduces black's potential on the upper side. And it does create the cut here, which is, could be answered but doesn't have to be answered. Black curls around. So now black has cut this group off and will have some potential to attack. White attaches here. So this is a defensive move. Considering this black group to be a stronger group, white is attaching against it so that both sides will become stronger than they were before. Inducing a black response like this is what usually happens. And then white can extend. Black pushes against. White connects. So white has moved out into the center with a strong shape. Meanwhile, black is getting some extra potential there. So black plays here. So this is actually a very big move, although it's on the second line. It's preventing a white invasion on the side here. So white could invade here, bump against black here, and connect underneath. So this is a very big move. As far as endgame moves are concerned, this is going to be the biggest endgame move. It would be called usually an endgame move because it doesn't really have anything to do with the life and death of any groups. But it is a huge move. So this is big. It also creates some potential for black in the corner. So black is looking at the potential peep here in the corner, which, depending on how white continues, oh, white didn't do that. The peep here could become a problem later. So black plays here. And white starts to attack black on the left side. So already the upper left corner is not white's territory if black plays first there. And black's going to have some potential to erase that corner. But for the time being, black has to do something with this side group. So white plays a hane underneath. And let's see. Black pulled back. White crawled. So white is refusing to give black eye space on the side. Black does get a hane here after white pulls back. So black's just about finished with the forcing moves on the side there. So now black is probably going to head out into the center. Yes. And this is a point where if white had been greedy on this side, then black would still have potential to play this and force from the side, which would be a big plus for black. Also, it would not be so good for white because even if black just extends here, this would create the threat from this side, again looking at the cut on the third line. So just bumping against here would simply be a bad idea for white in this position. So black moves out in the center. And white plays here. This is preventing black from making I space with this attachment here, which would give good shape to black. So by playing here, white is prepared to play an Atari, although this is still a kind of a good shape move. The moment black plays it, white will be able to play an Atari. So it doesn't work so well now. So instead, black jumps out. And the meaning of this move is that now black does not have two eyes. And white is in a position to attack. And we're going to see white connecting up here in the center as a part of that attack, because white has to remember that this group started out as a weak group. So connecting up to the center here, this group connecting up to this side, is a good thing for white to be doing at this point in the game. So white plays one attachment, and then chases black once more. So this is a nice move that white would like to play before adding one stone to the connection here. Black plays here. So black is increasing the I space with this move, making it very difficult for white to try to kill this group, which gives white a good time to play away. And black pulls back. And black is still sort of eyeing the upper left corner. That is not a white's territory if black plays first there. Hane. And white extends. So white has built a strong shape here in the center, reducing the upper side black territory a little bit. And at this point, black has the option to play away. So black starts an attack here. White could have added a stone to this position somewhere around here, would have completed the connection of these stones to the upper left corner, the lower left corner, excuse me. So this is a point that was sort of important for a while here. And black does have some potential for a counterattack here. So black's going to cut here. Probably play an Atari, yes. Has to go back to save this stone. But he didn't do that. He's going to let this stone just hang. So he just played some forcing moves with the threat of this stone, saving this stone, left for later. But black was not ready to do it immediately. So now white finally adds a stone to the corner here. Without this move, black could have easily lived with any move in the corner here, like, for instance, this. And, for instance, pushing through already creates some trouble for white. Otherwise, black could slide here and would be able to live, because white has to do something about the connection, making a connection here. So, for instance, white could play like this. And like this would be a solid way to play, but black would easily live with a stone in the corner. So as far as territory is concerned, this is one of the biggest moves left on the board to play here, making this a territory. Black plays a hane. White has a living shape there on the left side. So black plays here. So black has abandoned the idea of attacking these white stones. And white plays here. So we are actually entering the endgame here. In this position, it looks dangerous for black to connect the one stone, because white would have the option of pushing through here. A lot of danger to the whole black group here. So usually black would just scroll here, and yes, and white gets to cut here. And we're entering the end game. Let's see how the game progresses. It's very quickly progressing. They're sort of jumping around here. This cut here has been an issue for a while. I guess it's about time to say it's a fairly big move now. It's going to capture these three stones probably, making about 10 points of profit for white, and reducing black's territory a few more points. And so white could have captured the three stones with a move like this or a move like this. Either one would work. But white has returned to the left side here. So yeah, again with Pyrgo, sometimes you have two partners with slightly different ideas about what's important. So there can be this kind of jumping around, a bit more than if you're just having one player playing. Now this is a point where if white covers here, there's actually some trouble, potential trouble in the corner. It's a very well-known shape, but it's, if you haven't seen it before, it's worth knowing that white can cut, black can cut here and extend. And with the forcing move here on the 2-1 point, quite often the 2-1 point or the 1-2 point is called a key point in the corner. Black can actually make a living shape with the hanging connection here at the other 1-2 point. So this is a shape where black can actually live in the corner. And we can see the solid shape here that black has on the side means that white will not be getting very much back. So that's why white pulled back here. Apparently losing 2 points, but in this case there was no choice. So black finally plays the hanging connection here, and white escapes towards the center. At this point in the game, almost all of the stones are safe. So just having this one weak white group is not really going to be that dangerous for white. We do still have one more game to look at, so maybe this is a good time to stop this game. Let's take a look at the territory. So black does have a nice territory here. Almost 40 points. It's not quite 40 points. I'd say it's 37, 38 points. So black has captured a white stone here. So it's not as big as Komi, but maybe about 5 points there. And a few points here. So that's about 50 points. And then black has 12 points on the upper side. So that's more than 60 points. White needs about 55 points to win. Let's see what white has. White has 18 points here. So maybe 17, 18 points here. So that adds up to 35. Yes, 35. This is about 6 points, so slightly more than 40. And that's where white stops. So there's some potential for both sides here. Maybe white's slightly behind. It looks like it's a very close game. So white's trying to get some extra profit. If white can squeeze this group a little bit and force it to make 2 eyes, then that could change the calculation a little bit. But it looks like it's going to be a very close game. I'd say maybe a slight advantage for black, but it depends on what happens towards the center here. So maybe we should go to the other game. One more game I have to show you, which is the Japanese pairs Iyama and Kato Keiko. So obviously Iyama is a famous player. Until quite recently, he had all 9 of the Japanese titles. Quite recently, one of them was taken away from him. And so in this game, Iyama and Kato have black. So I'll change that to black. And O and Shin, both the Korean pair. O, I believe, is a two-dan, but not to be deceived by the low ranks. She's a new professional. I think she became a professional just last year. And she's very young. She's in her teens. So she's that would sort of adds up to, if you include the fact that she's being chosen for this tournament, it shows that she's probably a very dangerous player. So I'm sure we have a lot of catching up to do with this game. So let's start from the first moves. a 3-4 point, and white plays a star point. So black is playing 3-4 points, sort of orthodox style. And a big shimari. Now this is the favorite move nowadays. White plays a kakari. And again, we see this move. Again, orthodox would sort of indicate a pincer of some kind. Maybe here, maybe here. Probably with the high shimari, most players would be playing on a fourth line, a high pincer. But in recent years, and this has become very popular, partly because the computers indicate that it's a good move. It was played by AlphaGo a lot. And then black jumps into the 3-3 point and extends. Playing this variation of the joseki is the most popular, but extending here has become more and more common in just the recent few weeks, I would say. So it's a relatively simple way of taking sente if black plays the slide here. But instead black curled, so it reverts to this shape. And now white's going to play the hane. So after this hane, white has a choice of cutting or playing a double hane. So when white plays the double hane, this means that with this exchange, it's going to be impossible. It's not going to be good, at least, for black to capture the one stone, because white can capture the 3 stones with a very efficient shape. So this would be just bad for black locally. So when white plays this one hane and then plays the double hane here, black will go for this white stone instead, making a living shape in the corner and creating a weakness in white's wall. And if white can capture in the ladder, this is considered to be an even result. But as we can see, there's a lot of black stones, or at least 2 black stones right there blocking the ladder. So the ladder is going to be bad for white. White would have to play this stone somewhere around here. And usually this variation is not played when the ladder favors black. So instead, white plays the cut here, and black plays here. This is another place where black could have gone after the one stone. That would be a completely different variation. During this tournament, I wouldn't be surprised if I have an opportunity to show that one to you. So, so this variation, white is pointed towards the lower side here, pointed towards the left, and also has a wall pointing in this direction, which is not so important. This area is not so important because black already has sort of staked out that, started to stake it out. So white extends. Obviously, if white extends here, then black can play a pincer and get some potential to attack here. So this is a very fluid, a light move. Flexible, I guess. And black extends here. White answers. And again, we get this popular joseki here, where black is going to play the double hane. And in this case, white just extended down here to take the territory. And so black will push. Okay, so white peeped here. So this was a move that was played in the final match of AlphaGo against KJ, the top Chinese player, who is also one of the pair, the champion pair, and one of the strongest players in the world. And so in that game, black played from above here to get a very interesting variation. In this game, black simply connected. So white gets to extend here. It's generally considered that compared to having black extend here to make a living shape, having the peep here once is probably a good exchange for white. Black plays this. This hits a weak point in white's shape, in that if white tries to cut black's knight shape, black has the threatened cut on the 3rd line here. And of course, the other threat is to capture in a ladder. So this is usually not a very good idea for white. So white extends on the upper side. Although this is a short extension, it does hit a weak point in black's corner enclosure in the upper left corner. So this is a nice continuation move after black has played here, putting some pressure on the white group. After white extends, black still has the attachment here. And if white pushes through, black will be able to capture, well, at least the 4 stones. Actually, cutting underneath is even more strong. So white will have to play underneath. And we get this shape, where black actually has the option of capturing 3 white stones later. So this is the profit that black gets when white has played away in this shape. So white played away once to take this important point, and black has gotten a little extra profit on the side here. So black plays here. It's still not a black territory there in the upper left, but it's one step closer to becoming a black territory. And of course, black is putting pressure on this white group. So white extends here. This is one of the final big points in the opening. And since black has already started to put pressure on white, black continues to try to attack here. White jumps out. And black switches to the right side. So white extends. Black defends. A very standard position here. And white jumps out. Black jumps out. So a running part starts. This white group is weak, and this black group is not alive yet either. This white group is not alive yet. This black group has an eye on the side and potential to capture 3 white stones here with the attachment here. So it's not exactly weak. It could eventually become a weak group, but that's pretty far in the distance. It takes a couple of white moves to actually make this a weak group. So we have 2 weak white groups to worry about and 1 weak black group. And maybe we can include this white group. It's about the same strength as this black group. For the time being, it's perfectly okay, but conceivably it could become a weak group in the future. Oh, so white just leaves it. So a normal move would be to add 1 stone to protect, but white actually played in the upper left corner. Black plays a forcing move here. This would usually be continued with another attachment here, another forcing move, but black starts with the peep here. White covers, black pushes through. Cuts. So this is a very strong attack here. And black's going to extend down. And black can save these 2 stones. Black has to save them at this point. So the question is, what's going to happen to black's weak shape on the other side? That's a very weak shape black has. So white starts with this. If black tries to save the 1 stone, white will be able to break through here. Still with some potential in the corner. And this weak black group and the white group, they're both weak. But for the time being, there's a lot of bad aji in the corner. There's potential for white in the corner, and white is out. The main group is out. So this is what white's aiming at with this attachment. So instead, black allows white to live. Protecting the corner. So black has a solid corner territory in this case, and white is not yet 100% alive. So white is still threatening the attachment here. So as long as white has the potential for this, black cannot try to kill white's side group. So black answers here, already taking away the potential here. And so white adds a stone. If black plays at this point, then black will be able to kill the white group just with a number of choices, but for instance with this move. So white adds a stone to live, and black can play here to capture 3 stones. So the whole trade here, white got an extra big move on the upper side, but black did get a lot of profit in this immediate area and has consolidated the corner. So this was probably not bad for black. Okay, taking away white's base and threatening to connect up to the corner by capturing 1 white stone with this move. White bumps against. And black has to do something with this group to continue. So black jumps out. So black's idea is to connect up to the upper side, maybe get some extra territory towards the center. Looking at the territory, white has some territory here and some small territories on the sides. So it's not as if white has an overwhelming lead in territory. Black does have about 10 points in these two corners. This is sort of undefined, but if things go well for black, this could easily develop into something like 20 points with some extra points if black can surround this area too. And black almost has 10 points here, so that adds up to, if we count this as 20 points actually, that adds up to almost 50 points, which would be more than enough for black to win. So from white's point of view, white has to chase this black group and disrupt black's area in this point area. So white plays an aggressive move here. Also, white does have some potential in the upper side, but with this strong black group on the right sticking out, and also some strength here that could come out, it's going to be difficult for white to make this into a big area. So black plays this attachment. This was in the cards to begin with, so white has to answer this. And black returns to the center. White is playing very aggressively here. This looks like it's a giving the partner the choice of the next move. So black counterattacks strongly. So this is going to be a fight here. Excuse me. That was that black stone. So it's going to be a fight here in the corner, in the center. We can see that one of the black players is playing forcing moves to give the tempo to the partner. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's Kato Keiko playing some forcing moves to allow Iyama to do some of the key decisions. In this is going to be a vital fight in the center here. So it's going to be decisive, I should say. So white has to probably extend here. And we're caught up to the game. Okay, the game between Taipei and China, Lin Missingham and Li Naiwei and Chen, it seems that, oh, no, maybe they're not finished. Li Naiwei has won so Li Naiwei and Chen, the Chinese pair, have won. And so white extended in the center here. And so it's going to be a fight between this black group and the white stones. For the time being, black has an advantage in this immediate area, but white is eyeing the potential of jumping here to create some trouble on the left. White immediately did that. Black covers. So at some point, it looks like it's going to be a fight to capture. Black cuts. And you can see the black three stones are in danger also. But for the time being, there's the push here. So white extends. And now black has to do something about these three stones. So for instance, jumping would be a normal looking move. But instead, black attached. So if black attaches here and white pushes through, then black is going to play the net here, which pretty much captures those two stones. So that settles that. And cutting here is not, for the time being, it doesn't look like it's going to make much difference because black can just play on the outside. It still looks like it's a difficult fight there locally for white. And white cannot afford to lose these stones. And so white runs out. The whole idea here for white is to isolate this black group because it doesn't have eye space yet. And black adds a stone to completely capture those stones. After this, white does have to worry about the black move here, which could potentially capture white in the center. So white pushes through. White's going to try to erase that potential by attacking first. So I believe we might be caught up to the game. So the game between Takao and Hsieh, So Park and Choi from Korea won the first round against Takao and Hsieh from Japan. So that's another game that just ended. And I think we are caught up to the game. White is cutting here, because if white doesn't do anything in the immediate area, black's going to have to surround white. Now that black has a very solid shape here, this looks like it's going to work. So white pushes through and cuts. And immediately the fight here is, for the time being, the black stone is too weak. So black answers on this side. And white's going to add a stone probably here to capture the one black stone. And black adds a stone here. So now black is making eye space on the right side. And it still looks a bit complicated, but it looks like black should be able to manage. Of course, if black doesn't make eyes, then it's going to be pretty disastrous. So for the time being, this is going to be a key fight here. Question being, which side does black connect? Oh, black played here. White plays an Atari. So this is getting exciting. Black plays the wedge here. If black connects here, then white can connect with the implied squeeze here. So for instance, if black plays here, white still has time to play this squeeze and fix white's position on the outside, and can still win the semi in the center with the throw in here. So that would just be a win for white. Otherwise, if black plays the connection here, white can win by, for instance, playing here. Looks like playing here would work also. So black just left the 3 stones. It'd be interesting to hear how much of this was planned. And black wedges here. It looks like it's going to be a ko in the center of the board. Now black has a choice of cutting here, which would lead to an outright ko. But black instead chose to play here. The idea being that if white connects, black's just going to sacrifice some stuff in the center and go after these 2 stones. So black will get about 10 points on the side here. That should be good enough. So white answers here. And now black is getting some eye space. Probably connect. Doesn't look like the game is going to be a good game for a ko from black's point of view. And white does have a lot of coining points. So it's looked like this has been fairly successful for black. If white connects here, black still has the cut here. So this shape is not looking like it works for white. So white just leaves that and plays on this side. And I expect black will leave it too and push through here. Oh no, black played the cut. Yes. So after black, for instance, if black captures the 1 stone here, black did capture the 1 stone. There is the threat of connecting here and attacking these 4 stones in the center. So white takes the 3 stones, and black can go back to the right side to capture these 3 stones. And there's some stones floating around here that white can probably pick up some points with. Black jumped. Okay, this is also a big move. Shall we take a look at the territory? White crawl. It's still some excitement here with a lot of trading going on. White covered. Black will cut. And white will probably cover here again. And black pushes here. It's moving very quickly. White extends. Black covers. Saving the 3 stones, and finishing the territory here. Okay, let's just pause for a moment to take a look at the territory. So this is about 35 points almost. So black has 60, 65, somewhere around 65 points, I guess. So this is slightly more than 20. So it's, let's see, this is about 22. A bit more than 20. So both of these are a bit more than 20. And white has a few points here, a few points there. So about 60 points, I guess. White has a good 60 points. So it looks like it could be very close, actually. So let's get back to the moves. White took here. Black peeped. And they're fighting the ko here. So black took the ko and white pushed. Getting some territory for black in the center of the board. So they're just finishing the territories here. Why don't we just take this game to the end? Very logical play here. A relatively simple end game. Excuse me, where did black play? Oh, black took the one stone here. I believe we caught up with the game. There's just a few more endgame moves to be played. There's this push here. There's some endgame moves in this vicinity, and that's just about it. Maybe black has a small lead. Black cut here. But I don't really have time to count it. So that finishes the center territory. Moves around here are not so small, and this is, and then just some moves on the right side. So we're just about finished. So at this point of the game, just about everything is about the same size. So this is maybe the biggest move, but this was a forcing move. So this is going to be exchanged with this. And then I guess this is the only move. And white would have a choice of just about anywhere. This move and this move would be about equal. So white is threatening a ko here, maybe even immediately. So yes, so this could be troublesome for black, because it would involve the corner. So at this point, black has to read to figure out the ko threats. So black didn't do that. So black avoided the ko by playing this move, which is about an equal to some other moves on the board. For instance, white will probably play this one. Instead, white curled around here, still inviting black to play the ko. Black will probably not do that, though. So there's, this is generally called a 2-point move. There's also a similar move here, which is about the same size. And then there's this area, in which case black might just play this one to simplify it. And there's a 1 point and well, more than a point. It's equivalent to some other moves. There's this one too. So there's a few moves that are about the same size still. Theoretically, they're almost all the same size. Still, of course, black has to make the choice of whether it's okay to play this move, which would become a ko. It would be a bit dangerous to allow white to start this ko. Okay, so the Japanese, there's another game that is finished. Ichiriki and Fujisawa Rina have won. So they won against Wang and Yang from Taipei. So that was a victory for Japan in the first round. So this move, this is equal in size to, for instance, this move or this move. And theoretically this move too, but that's a bit more, that depends on some factors, of course. Yes. So this move, it's 1 point in itself, and eventually it will be a forcing 1 point move later in the game. So it amounts to the same size as these moves that we have in different areas. And black might even answer it after, for instance, playing this exchange. It would be a valid move for black to actually answer that move, as there are 2 moves of an equal size elsewhere. This could be, if you look at these as interchangeable points, this is the one area left to be played on the board. But instead, black played this one, which will lead to the same result. white cuts here. This looks like it's just maybe white was just undecided as to what to do. And white captured as shown here. So now it's just this area here and two ko's left in the center of the board and a potential ko in the upper left, which will come final. So first of all, black has to choose a way to play this area, probably just by pushing here. And then this, or the hane here. So it's just this immediate area here, which are moves that are worth what we call a 1-point moves. So black will probably continue here. It would be equal to play on this side. So either of these two. So black plays here. And at this point, white can play this exchange. And now it's just these three ko's that are left. White can win two of them, but not all of the ko's. So there's one of these ko's that black is going to connect. And this being a Korean pair against the Japanese pair, they're all familiar with the counting system. So they'll probably just take it ahead to the counting on their own. And just to recap the rules in this tournament, there's the players have 30 seconds for each move. It looks like black won by resignation. So Iyama and Kato Keiko won this game. It seems that white resigned at this point. I think black must have had a small lead as the game was about to end. And so that was the second victory for Japan in this tournament. Otherwise, Naiwai and Chen Yaoye won for China. And let's see, the other pair was, let's see, it was the Korean pair, Park and Choi, I believe. Hopefully we'll have a score for the pairings. 組み合わせ表って出ます? Oh, maybe not. So I believe we have one Korean pair, two Japanese pairs, and a Chinese pair to go on to the semifinals. Okay. So let's just show you the four winners of the first round. So that's Naiwai and Chen Yaoye from China. Let's see, why don't I just clear some space here and have them on the board. So that's one pair. And Ichiriki Ryo and Fujisawa Rina from Japan. And Park and Choi from Korea. And again from Japan, Iyama and Kato Keiko. So that's the four pairs who won the first round. And they'll be going on to the second round, the semifinals, later today. And the winners of the next round will be fighting for winning the tournament. So thank you, and I'll finish at this point. I'll be back in the afternoon, Japan time, to comment on the second round of this tournament. Thank you.